What up, YouTube? It's your boy Banks, and we back in the building, you feel me? It's True Talks, cause True Talks, alright? Let's get straight right into it. So you already know, man, last night was definitely, a lot of people were shocked about what they saw. You know, obviously, you know what I predicted. I predicted the Suns in 6. I predicted that from time, even with the healthy AD. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, I know what elite looks like. I told y'all from time D-Book was the truth. I told y'all from time. I've said last year, even before all of this started, before this season started, once they acquired CP3, I seen what the Suns did in the bubble, going 8-0, where every game is basically a playoff game for them. That's what people don't understand. For them to even make the play-in game, they had to win every single game just to put themselves in position and hope someone else loses. They couldn't mess up any game, and they won 8 for 8. So when you see stuff like that and you see Devin Booker average 32, 31, whatever he was doing, eating in all those 8 games, and he's the main guy and, you know, all of that type of stuff. So I already knew that this team, especially the young guns, they have the fire, they have that dog in them to actually do this. You know what I'm saying? They have the dog in them. That's what I already knew and I anticipated coming into the season. I seen them turn a whole new leaf. I seen him, Devin Booker, finally have a roster of credible players. You know what I'm saying? Where now it's like, okay, they could do some things. And if I be me, it's over. Because he's always been me. He's always been who he is. He's always been young Kobe from the dawn of time. So people haven't been paying attention. This is why, again, it always comes up. Situations is everything in basketball. Situations is everything. Talent is talent. And you could spot talent whether you're in a bad situation, whether in a great situation. Talent is talent. You can see what elite looks like. You can see arsenal. You can see ability. Like, it's not just about the points, about the averages, about the numbers, the field goal percentage. It's about how do you score? And the fact that Devin Booker has scored, shot 50%, shot 40%, shot high efficiency while being the main guy, where normally you shoot less efficiency because you're double teamed, you know what I'm saying? And you have to do volume amount of shots. You have to shoot shots in volume. The fact that he's doing high efficiency with that, what do you think he's going to do when now he has better players, or when he has, you know what I mean, another all-star caliber player with him? We seen CP3 without an all-star caliber team, without any player who was an all-star or a superstar on the team with OKC. You've seen the turnaround. So what did you think he was going to do with the Suns? People anticipated they're going to be bottom. Like, it's like, people, it's like, they don't pay things like this. When something is not something, so when a team isn't the marquee or like always talked about, and you see people's predictions on those teams, you really see if they really watch basketball or not, or if they really understand the game. So if you really understood the game and you've really been paying attention to the Suns from time, you would have anticipated the Suns were gonna have a remarkable season. You would have known these things, and this is what I was trying to anticipate and tell people, like, coming into this season, like before. And I specifically said in my previous video that the Lakers, any marquee elite team, if they are somehow to face the Suns in the playoffs, it's not going to be like the OKC or going to be like other teams where it's like, okay, they're guaranteed going to win. It's just going to be maybe a tough one. No, you could actually lose because this team has potent closers in terms of Devin Booker and Chris Paul. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not like they're not elite. They're elite. They've been elite. Now they're in a great situation. You've seen what it was. Like, Devin Booker has been this. He's just been missing the situation. So, you know, I already anticipated this coming in. I anticipated before the season. I said they're going to be a top 3 seed in the West. They ended up being number 2. I said they're going to beat the Lakers in 6 or just upset somebody. They're going to upset somebody. People are in for a rude awakening. You don't want to face them in the playoffs. And then it happens to be already the first round. You're already seeing upset. So that's why I was trying to tell people, like, it's just, you can see the confidence in their game. The more the series went on, the confident they got. And that's something that's telling. That's something that's telling, because you should be getting your games early on them when they haven't been familiar with the playoffs. But I told you, some teams, the inexperience doesn't really matter. They still have a Jay Crowder who already was in the finals last year. You already know he's a dog. They still have CP3. So that's enough to, you know, and they're not dogs because of having the ball and scoring. They're dogs because one of their mentality first. That's the first. When I say someone's a dog, that's the first thing first. Is you have to look at the mentality. And then that's why I always tell people, making someone better isn't just from assists. Making someone better is, do you have that mentality, that dog mentality, that now it bleeds on to the rest of the team? and it trickles down. And that's where the real effect, the ripple effect, the CP3 effect is more so long lasting. Like Cameron Payne, like CP3 doesn't have to get assists to Cameron Payne to make him better. No, Cameron Payne, play like me. When I'm off the court, be like me as a CP3. Similar. Be a dog, control the tempo. When you have opportunities to get buckets, get a bucket. You know what I'm saying? Make right decisions. Play dog defense. Like, you're seeing things like this. So, you have to pay attention to these things and understand the game to understand what's really transpiring with a lot of these teams, with a lot of, like, what elite looks like, with a lot of people who now you'll always see they're not as elite here. Same thing they're saying with Kuz. I promise if he goes to a next team, he'll be looking maybe not exactly like Ingram, but he will be completely different player than what you see. Putting people beside LeBron in a limited offense, you always see the worst of them. That's always what it is. This is proof is in the pudding. We've seen that with Ingram. We've seen that with Lonzo. We've seen that with Jordan Clarkson. We've seen that with so many guys. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to understand that like you have to let guys eat. Guys be able to eat and be comfortable and playing their strengths, not their weaknesses. And that's what you see. So, it's like, it's a lot of these things that kind of like, I know media and people that don't watch, they watch the game, but they don't have the trained eye to watch the game, or they understand the game and they're biased. So there's a lot of these things that is happening. And so they blame others. They blamed it. Like, there's a lot of these things happening. But at the end of the day, you have to understand what elite looks like, man. I know I went on a tangent, but, you have to. I love to see stuff like this in terms of the Suns, because people have been saying Devin Booker's not a winner. Devin Booker is this and that and that. All these terrible narratives, but then you put LeBron in the same shoes. Even with a team, with a good team, without AD, what do? Blame his teammates. Blame his teammates. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's not his fault. That's what they do. But why don't you give the same energy to other players? Why don't you give the same energy to Dame? If LeBron had the same roster as Dame, I promise you, when they're not playing defense and they're not doing this, they'll say it's not LeBron's fault, it's this. If, LeBron had the same, as even they do for Steph Curry, it's the same thing. Why couldn't Devin Booker get that same excuse when he's having G League players on his starting five? Why don't Devin Booker get the same excuse? No, he's not a winner, he's not this, he's not that. Why don't Harden get the same? Like, it's the same thing. These players don't get the same leash, the same move, the goalposts. You know what I'm saying? That they give to LeBron and other superstars that they like and who are more personable. And that's what you kind of see is biased talks. It's not really appreciation for the game, authenticity, and just a passionate IQ conversation about the game and being, just being fair. Just being fair to what the game is actually, what's transpiring with the game, and just being fair and being honest. You don't see people have that. And you can see in certain things that they say, certain narratives they bring up, and you'll notice that it's already capped. The fact that they even use that as an excuse or go to this narrative in their argument, just in comment sections and ads and Twitters, wherever you talk to people or you see a basketball interaction, right? You'll see already from once someone gets annoyed or frustrated or mad, you'll see the narrative they go to. Once you see that, that's why you always see me go, no IQ, no IQ, no IQ. You're tripping. See the game deep, because I only react based off what you say. And what you say already from the beginning is already a cap narrative that I've heard time and time again. It's hard to actually engage in a genuine, authentic IQ basketball deep conversation. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to do that when you once you hear certain things. It's like a trigger to me that it's like, okay, that's why you see me always. Oh, he's condescending. He's doing this. He's not like. That's why I don't even have time to I skim read, because I already know I'm not gonna waste my time doing that. I'm gonna reply because you're not gonna feel like, oh, you said something to me and I just go, he ignored me now. Oh, I got in this. No, I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna reply every time. I'm gonna reply and let you know. I don't run. I don't hide. We gonna have a talk. We gonna talk then. I'm gonna expose you at some point. You know what I'm saying? I already exposed you just from when I heard you. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I do. I respond when you come with proper IQ and even, not with the narratives, and you're actually talking that basketball stuff, then you see the different energy I give. You know what I'm saying? It's just your answer, your response, your IQ dictates how I go. You know what I'm saying? And that's where people don't understand, and some people get frustrated or whatever. And then, it's not like everything I say is right, but at the end of the day, like we have to have some. Let's talk about the X's and O's. Let's break this stuff down. Let's talk about ability. Let's talk about the R's. Let's talk about things past the numbers. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about these things that actually matter. When you want to just talk about these things in a general, grand, scope of things, and all like whatever they're saying on these media shows and whatever, and you're just recycling it. I've been there, done that, man. So it's like that's where you get what you get. But anyways, I digress. But last night, obviously, the Suns won. They beat the Lakers in 6, won 3 straight games since. LeBron was going and Drummond was going with Crowder and them since they was doing that. So, you know, people are obviously going to find their excuses and do whatever that. But I'm here to debunk that. I'm here to talk about what really happened. You get what I'm saying? So let's go into that context because I gave it that context. Let's go straight right into it, boy. So like I was saying, man, obviously, you know, the Phoenix Suns, they came out the gate blowing out the Lakers. Obviously, it's going to be an uphill battle for the Lakers. You could see you know, when someone knows what it is like, perfect example is look at LeBron, like his body language with, you know, just things in general in terms of, you know, the like, they score three. And that's the thing with the Suns. Most times, LeBron teams, like when he goes in transition and the other team doesn't do transition as much, he could cover some ground. And that's what you saw with LeBron. Like, you saw with LeBron, even when they tried coming back, LeBron's like, okay, you know what? Obviously, my half-court game, my skill isn't there. I'm bricking. My shot isn't there. Like, you could already see that. So he's going to what? What's he going to do? He's going to now try, and when they get stops or when they miss, everything is going to become a transition type of game, right? Everything is going to become transition. So him doing that, he's going to now, you know, push the tempo and switch things up and just run downhill. What also did they do? They didn't start Drummond, which obviously, again, is going to affect you with rebounds at sometimes. There's some positives that Drummond does do. But again, the reason why they don't play Drummond, why? Because Bron, like I was showing y'all in last video, needs paint. So when you're more one-dimensional, other guys clash with your play style, and it's hard for them. Like, this is why I say they need chemistry. They need mesh, because you have so many guys that are one-dimensional or not multifaceted that it's like they affect each other play style-wise. And you're always going to get that with LeBron teams, which is why they always use this. Is that it comes full circle with the Nets. They always use this. They need time together, because all LeBron's big super team type threes, big three type teams and whatever need time together, because there's lack of play style somewhere within the big three, whether it's from LeBron, whether like there's a clash in play style. Love is normally was in the paint. OD now he has to just strictly stick on the perimeter. Bosh was in the paint, had a mix, but now he has to strictly stick to the perimeter more so. Wade was on ball and doing stuff. Now he has to play off ball. I mean, he's at the three, so he has to find a mesh where he could cut random cuts. So like there's certain aspects of their play styles that have to mesh together. So you need time and familiarity, right? But again, with the Nets in them, you don't, because there's no limitations. So it's different context and different history that gets applied. Actually, there's no history, because this is the first time ever that we've seen a big three fully like that. We've seen that with the Warriors, which is why, but they needed somewhat time, because again, this like KD is the only main ISO guy, where the other guys are more so off ball. So you need to figure out, okay, KD gets it in the spots and he's posted up. When do we, you know, there's a balance, but these guys, anyone could ISO. It don't matter. You don't like it. It don't matter. But anyways, I digress. That's not the main thing. The main thing is, you know, LeBron, they started out with Andre Drummond, and we're going to talk about AD later, but Andre Drummond, obviously, you know, not playing. They started off with Gasol because they want a floor spacing big. And then when you start off with Gasol, what happens? Obviously, he has to, they're going to make him have to make the shots often. They're going to make him have to do that. But they didn't, you know, he didn't do that, obviously, because Gasol, if you know, you've been watching with the Raptors, his three ball is there enough to like make a 1-2, but it's not enough to like splash like a Jokic or something like that, where he's going to shoot 40%, you know, he's going to be splashing a lot and all that type of stuff. It's not enough, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, man, at the end of the day, like, he's going to have to hit at a potent level, but he's not going to. So how much floor spacing can you really have? And then what happens? Now they switched it to where they didn't even really play Montrez to like the back end. Then what are they doing? They put Markieff Morris at the 5, right? They played a completely small ball lineup. So at least now when the guy who's floor spacing from 3 is going to be a guy who can hit consistently, or at least shoot better at a more potent level. But he went 0 for 3, right? Man's like, you know, LeBron went 3 for 10 from the 3. You have Schroeder who went 2 for 6. You have KCP, who was the only one that was mainly snapping. Him and Schroeder's were the MVP of this game. Obviously, LeBron had his 29, but that 29 was capped. A lot of it was just run downhill and later on the back end. During the whole run and during the most important part of the game, who was the ones carrying? It was actually KCP. KCP was even doing ISO sidestep threes. LeBron was just passing OD, you know what I'm saying? And then who was the ones that were shooting and going to work? KCP. Schroeder was playing elite defense that brought the run back, full court pressing CP3, and then he started putting his foot on the gas pedal and started, you know, turning it on, pushing the tempo and stuff like that. He dictated what the whole, he changed the game at that most important point when now the game started to, go back towards the Lakers were making a run and stuff like that, right? But every time they made a run, Devin Booker silenced the crowd, silenced the crown, silence of the lambs. That's who he was. Because they say he's the GOAT. Nope. Silence of the let me not. But anyways, because Devin Booker was just what elite looks like. But like I was saying, like you're going to have to manipulate a lineup at this point in LeBron's career. He can't get away with like playing with the Dwight Howard or playing with a Tristan Thompson. He's not going to get away with it because before his athleticism was so still elite and still potent that when I mean athleticism, like LeBron's athleticism is still there. And people now are going to bring up the ankle. You're going to hear him say the ankle's not 100% when it's cap. If it's not, you will never be able, if it's not 100%, you'll never be able to jump and your head is at the rim. You'll never be able to do that. Like if and this is the ankle, like, you know what I mean? Like the ankle that helps with the planting. Obviously he's jumping off his left foot. I'm pretty sure it was his right ankle. Was it his left ankle? I don't even remember. But anyways, regardless, like that gather to, his one leg jump, both ankles matter, right? You can't just explode. Even if it's one ankle, you still have to get that first push, that power up from the opposite leg to get that one leg jump. You know what I'm saying? And his head's at the rim. So it's like his athleticism is not, it's not that he's not 100%. You know what I'm saying? It's not. It's like he might maybe be 90 or whatever the case is, but that's not the issue at all. Obviously, that's why I don't like when LeBron does this excuse building shit, but it is what it is. It's not, that's not the issue. The issue is, and this has been for a while, only the bubble is where when he got that ample 5 months rest. That's people are forgetting. He was even during the season, before the bubble, you were seeing some points of decline in his athletic ability. That's what they were saying. Oh, Kawhi is making LeBron be an athletic player, be a skilled player, not an athletic player. And you saw this with guys who have girth and body up athletically, like a Crowder, like I was saying, like a Kawhi, even PG. You got Jimmy Butler. You got guys like that, right? That have girth, have length, have great cutoff ability. You can't just run and blow by off a hezzy blow by. They're going to cut off because they can move athletically, and they have body up ability. They have size, right? They have girth. He struggles with that. He's always throughout his whole career struggled with just beating them and blowing by them. But he gets away with it at times because he could hit them with a hezzy that he's just so quick off the first step that he could just get his angle, right? And then he's just strong that boom. When he gets the angle and he beats you, then he gets his 1-2 jump and it's over, right? He was able to get away with that. And you've seen him in the bubble at times when he pushed the tempo, he was getting away with that. And what was happening? 80 was spacing out. It was when 80 was at the 5. But now that's different context. Now when you have Drummond there, or even without Drummond there, you have guys who aren't consistent shooters at the 5 where they can actually crowd the paint on you. You know what I'm saying? His athleticism isn't enough to the point of in that half court setting to blow by and get a high layup and, contact layup, whatever. That's why you see all his layups is grounded. And his layups have been grounded for a minute. His athleticism normally comes in transition when he's dunking and stuff like that. But he's not dunking all the time. If you notice, this has been something for years that's been the issue with LeBron, right? His athleticism. This is why I've been saying once his athleticism goes, he's going to have to be a skilled player. And for someone anybody in history, if LeBron's athleticism goes, he's probably going to look like a shell of himself in terms of ability because his arsenal isn't potent enough to be, consistently, you do it. And even a deeper level thought and deeper level context, LeBron, his athleticism has actually been the backbone of his skill. So what I mean by that, those games you see him doing the LeBronto fadeaways, those games he's snapping from the perimeter, even versus Miami in Game 6, he starts the game out, he'll hit his first shot, whatever, but during the game, he's still making a decent amount of layups. So it keeps him at bay. It keeps him comfortable. There's still a mix of paint and arsenal. It's just not strictly perimeter. Now, there is more perimeter base on those elite games, right? Is more perimeter base, but he still has that comfortable thought process in his mind that I can still get to the paint at any time if I need be. If my shot is missing, at any time I could get to the paint. So he's not really shooting knowing this is all I could do. It's a different mental dynamic that people don't pay attention to. When okay, I have to just kill from the perimeter, I can't rely on the paint at all. That's a different context that only the KDs, the Kyries, all these other guys, and Kyrie goes to the paint. Doesn't mean they don't go to the paint, but they can, if they're forced to, all you have to do is perimeter play. They could be comfortable doing that. Same with Dame, with all these other guys, they could be comfortable doing that because they have ability. Steph is one of them too. They could be comfortable. Okay, all I got to do is shoot on a perimeter all this game. That's all I could do. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to be potent and be efficient with it. It's not going to affect their game because that is their game. And then the paint comes here and there. right? Based on the situation that is at hand. But they go to the pull-ups, they go to the jump shots at a, majority of the time. So LeBron isn't like that. So when he now knows he's trying to go to the paint, he can't. He's grounded. The man's hitting under the rim. You know what I mean? He's doing all these takes are not like he's relying on getting fouls, but he's not explosive. He's grounded. So when you look at those things, you see it. It's like, okay, he knows, the ref knows, every man knows his athleticism isn't there. You're not going to get the same calls because you're not high where you could double clutch or whatever, and then a man might hit you on the head. Now you're grounded, so all they do is put their hand there, and it's not going to be a foul. It's going to be like they're blocking the ball. They're not even getting the ball. They're not even getting body. Like, not every contact is a foul contact. They're there waiting for you, hand up, whatever, verticality, not even like mans are blocking him without even really jumping. That's how grounded he actually is. And it's been like that for a minute. But anyways, when he doesn't have the insurance policy, the insurance backup of I could go to the paint, it's different living on the perimeter being a skilled player. And that's why you see majority of this series is the most threes he's ever taken in the series. This is the most jump shots he's ever taken. Like, that's normally the transitional game from, guys who are getting older where the athleticism isn't the same. They can't just blow by. They have to do pull-ups. They have to kill with skill. They have to post up more. You seen MJ win a ring off doing that. With Scottie Pippen's back hurt, majority is perimeter jump shots. He didn't shoot the greatest percentage, but he kept going and going and going because at the end of the day, he has ability, he has arsenal. And that's why he's the GOAT. You've seen Kobe later in his career rely on perimeter jump shots, right? Even that last playoff game versus OKC. You've seen a lot of this. So, it's not something that's new. It's not something that's new, but it's something that's new for LeBron fans watching LeBron and for LeBron in general. And that's why I anticipated that, okay, LeBron, it's not like this series isn't winnable. CP3 is not really full healthy. AD is not really healthy. So it's one-on-one Booker versus LeBron. But what did you see? Ability from Devin Booker, right? Bare jump shots killing off Arsenal to start the game. 22 points in the first quarter. And then you've seen on the flip side, LeBron struggling, walking back on defense, mad body language, terrible, mad that a guy didn't pass to him, mad that a guy missed a shot, walking back even near the end, just walking back. He wasn't even back for like 3 straight possessions. He didn't even pass half court. He was literally walking back. So and that's the thing with LeBron too, is like his mental game. The man pouts during the games. He doesn't lift up the team. And that's what I tell people. They think leadership is just passing. And that's what I try to tell people, it's just all of this you see, it's more impactful the later you get in your career, which is why Chris Paul is always in winning situations, even though the situation don't look like it's a winning situation. Chris Paul's athleticism isn't the same athleticism, but he increased his ability. He increased more mid-range. He increased more threes. He increased more sidesteps, step backs. He increased more of the ability. So now, even though his athleticism has gone away, his IQ and his leadership and his Mamba mentality in terms of just his grit and killer, grit, grind, and killer is enough to make players better. It's not just his assists. Obviously, it's different because point guard still, Chris Paul's still a point guard. He still gets assists, but he lets people be who they want to be. He doesn't dominate the ball. He still has that killer in his mind that he impacts the game in terms of mental game with all his players that he's playing with. He doesn't have bad body language. He uplifts the team in bad moments. You see when Ayton got hit by LeBron and the whole team gathered around him. Chris Paul, get it together, Ayton. You can't, really? Because he's bumping your chest. Get stronger. What are you talking about? Stuff like that. LeBron's not doing that. LeBron, they highlighted when versus KCP as if it was, as if that was normal. That was cap. You know what I'm saying? It was cap when he was yelling at KCP. You seen his body in games, and that's what happens. The players, if you play and your main player is going, this nigga is weak, man, and walking back and doing all of this, it's normal. Normally you're gonna be you're gonna see a man yell shoot the ball, what do you do? The body aggressive, that's gonna amp you, right? But when you see a guy walking back and giving that these guys are garbage type of body language, that's where now they're only gonna play more garbage. It's gonna affect their mental game. They're not even shooting shots they're trying, their whole mental aspect is just depleted. And that's what LeBron been doing. You've seen it when the J.R. Smith thing happened. You've seen it in other moments. And that's why I say it's cap when they always bring assists. They act like assist equates leadership. No, assist makes a guy better. No, assist is just an assist. If anything, assist means that guy is actually more limited. That's what that means. Assist, that guy is more limited. When you let a guy ISO and he's actually killing without you, that's when you've actually understood if you made that guy better or not. That's the real definition of empowerment. That's the real definition of, this guy different now. It's guys that are scoring without your assists. That means you actually mentally behind the scenes, giving them confidence, empowered them, that now they have that confidence, they have that mental capacity to be like, oh, I'm not nervous, I'm here today. That's the real definition of leadership. Not, oh, I just pass you hit a catch and shoot shot, because half of it is my past, half of it is the ability that the guy has anyways. Right? So it's like, but the real one is like, okay, it's strictly you. Erase me from this. Are you on that level where you're not nervous, you're empowered to kill without me? That's where you really see the leadership come to play. A perfect example is Cameron Payne, a guy who was out the league, and now you're seeing him with Chris Paul. Part of it is obviously him. He's a dog. Obviously, this is not 100% just the other player, but a lot of it is the other player, because we've seen him in other situations not moving like this. In the bubble, Cameron Payne was moving clean, but now he's taking it to a newer level because Chris Paul is empowering him. It's the same thing you saw with Chris Paul pushing Shea, and he's moving to a newer level, empowering him. Yo, you like this, show them. That stuff like that is leadership, true leadership. So, obviously I'm digressing. Everything's in a bunch, but it's going to come full circle. But at the end of the day, like, that's what I was saying. Like, LeBron needs skill, and the older he gets, the more the lack of skill gets exposed. Or when guys have more skill, you really, really see it. Like, Jokic is killing with strictly skill, right? You're seeing guys killing strictly skill. Luka, strictly skill, right? We see stuff like that. So it's like, it's capable. LeBron is very capable of doing it, but he has to go now in the offseason and refine his game, sharpen his tools, get back in the lab and sharpen the ability, work on the pull-ups, work on all this ability, go to the post even more, change your game. All of this facing up, dribbling, running to the paint type is not the same. You could do it here and there, like, obviously, and that's the thing. The more you hit threes, the more men step up on you, that the blow by becomes easier, that you don't need, you get what I'm saying? You don't need you don't need to like always run to the paint. You don't need the strongest or the most explosive athleticism if they're playing you tight. That's how Steph Curry gets to the rim. Steph Curry isn't the most explosive player. Like, Trae Young is explosive, even though they have similar games, but Steph Curry isn't explosive like that. It's his craftiness. It's because you have to honor a shot so recklessly that now he's going to get to the paint because you're playing him so tight. Like, you know what I mean? You're bound to get beat. That people need to understand there's levels to this. If LeBron had an honest shot where mans are worried about his shot constantly, like a mellow face-up game, a mellow three, like you're playing him, you're crowding him, you have to play him tight, he's going to get some blow-bys, because all you need is one step. One head fake, and then they jump. Now you beat them. It's hard for them to recover. They're on your hip, scoop, lay, float, or whatever the case is. Like, there's multiple ways to be effective without having athleticism. But, when you rely on athleticism, it gets exposed at this level, at this moment, at this time. So that's what happened with LeBron. That's what I kept saying, the only way he's going to win these last two games, and even game 5, those 3 games, right? 5, 6, and 7, or 5 and 6, or whatever. All he needed was 2 straight games of elite ability, whether it was 5 and 6 and they went in 6, or they lost in 5 and it's 6 and 7. All he needed to do was apply ability. All he needed to do was go back to the LeBronto time, and all he needed to do that. But I knew that is really dictated on his athleticism, to be honest, right? But I was still hopeful, because I'm like, okay, LeBron is still of this ilk. He's still a great. He could still do it. It would be LeBron to do it. You know what I mean? He's not going to be exited ever in the first round. Like, it would be on him to actually do it. You could see it happening. So that's why everyone gave him the benefit of the doubt. Everybody was there saying he should win. I expect this. I expect 30 from him. I expect 40 from him. I expect all of this from him, right? That's what they kept saying. I expect this and that and that. But what did you see? You didn't see that. You didn't see that. So now at some point, if you still, like, the fact that you expected him to do this and he didn't do it, you can't have him as the best player. You can't have him as this, that, and the third. Like, you have to readjust your scale, readjust what you rate, readjust your goal, readjust whatever fraction you want to readjust something in. Something needs to be readjusted. There's no way you've seen what you've seen for 2 straight games and it's the same thing. There's no way. It's the same thing, like I was saying with LeBron in the 51-point game. It's a winnable game with the J.R. Smith thing. But what happens? The body language effects. Like, his mental capacity is not on the levels of some of the greats, even though he is one of the greats. And that's why I've always had him at a lower rating in terms, because those are the intangibles. Those are the things that, those stats, forget all that shit. The eye test and the mental game, you could clearly see on the basketball court in moments, and that's where I don't see from LeBron, right? So honestly, obviously this is going to sound like a knock on LeBron video, and it's not really. This is really just a recognized real type of video, because, like, a lot of people have been fair in this moment or just been reluctant to understand the moments and things that's been transpiring, because this is not something new. Like, this is not something new. It's just unfortunate. This is the first time LeBron hasn't had an AD. We've seen it. Like, perfect example. We've seen LeBron with a capable roster, right? A roster that individually actually is better than the roster he has now when he had Ingram, Ball, Kuzma, all those guys, Josh Hart. Like, he's had a capable roster and he didn't make the playoffs. This is obviously a first round, but he didn't make the playoffs when he came back again from injury and he had to just show ability and snap. He said, I'm in the playoff dark 30 mode, and you saw what happened. They went as a losing record to end off the season, and he missed the playoffs. That was even before the bubble. So I'm looking at LeBron in moments when he didn't have an AD with him, right? I saw this grounded play from him from time, even in 2018, when he went to the finals, right? But what did you see? You saw more ability. So I already knew that athleticism component has been removed. A lot of his buckets was straight ability, right? So that's why he was able to carry, and that's why I say, okay, you have a team that's similar. Well, they say it's similar when it's not, it's similar, whatever, because he still had Kevin Love, he still had Clarkson, he had Ronnie Hood, he had all these guys, but J.R. Smith, whatever. But anyways, you say that it's similar, then show me that similar play. That's the only thing that's missing. You can't expect to win without that similar play, because the last time you didn't win without that similar play. So now go back to that similar play. That's the common denominator. Do that. But when you don't do that and now you're expecting and blaming other people, it's like, really, that's what we doing? That's what we doing? So at the end of the day, like, I've seen this type of play from LeBron for a while, but, it's just, was he able to get back to that? And the fact that he couldn't get back to that, I think that is great for him to have an offseason now. Like, it was a terrible year. Like, AD being injured. We're going to talk about that too. Like, AD being injured and them actually playing him. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, AD wouldn't have to rush to come back. AD felt compelled and felt that I need to give all, because one, the media has a whole stigma on AD where he's frail. He's anytime he's not going to fight through an injury to play. He's always frail. Like, anytime he's injured, he's just going to sit out, whatever. Like, he doesn't have that backbone in him. So obviously that's what happens with media. Media is going to play a part into that actual player. They all hear this. They all listen to media. They all know what's going on. So it's going to play a huge part into that guy being like, okay, you know what? I got to give him my all. I gotta give him my all, and I gotta try to the death. And that's what you always want from a player. But you gotta understand, like, AD wouldn't feel compelled to come back if he literally saw LeBron snapping, and even if they lost in a crucial game. He would feel like, okay, they make a 1-2 minor adjustment and they could win. But the fact that they got blown the hell out, AD knows, the team knows that AD is everything. LeBron even knows. That's why he said it. When AD is AD, now we're the Lakers. So LeBron has shown you and hinted this from time, because LeBron knows that it's all AD. He's the only skilled player on this team. And not only that, even if AD scores 0 points or he's struggling, the fact that AD's on the court and he's at 3-point line at the 5 just opens up the spacing for LeBron. So there's literally multiple things he does, right? On the court, just by his presence, because he's so skilled, that opens up everything for the Lakers. So, you look at that. That's why I've always said he's the most impactful player. He's always this MVP of this team, especially now you incorporate the defense. You've seen how he shut down. The Butler was going to work. They put AD on him. He shut down Butler while AD's still snapping and going to work. You've seen what AD did in every series. He obviously, now LeBron snapped in the because AD went to the 5 and he snapped and had a better, well, in numbers wise, finals, but AD wasn't far off. He was like 1 or 2 points off. So it's like, AD to me was always the MVP because he did more things. He was more multifaceted. His skill, what he did, he was always the better player and the more MVP player. And that's what I was always telling people. But now you see it at full force. AD sees that, okay, we need me. They need me. It's clear. It's very clear. So what am I going to do? I'm going to force and come back. I'm going to, I'm going to come back and try. At least if I'm on the court, I give him space. And if I make a 1-2 jump shot, it will change everything. He's compelled to do that. If LeBron was LeBron, he wouldn't feel compelled to do that. So it's a double-edged sword. It's not just only AD and the coaching staff and the doctors and the medical team and all of that. It's everyone involved is a reason for AD re-injuring himself and whatever. Because you've seen from the jump, like him coming out, like it's a groin. A groin doesn't heal in 2 days. A groin doesn't heal in a week. It takes months. You see that with LeBron. It's a groin. It's lateral movement to defend itself. Even just to do change of direction, do a pull-up. Like, you can't move. You can't even defend. Like, you're just going to be a liability. Like, it's just, I've had a groin injury, man. It's not no joke. It's not no joke. You realize how much of important certain body parts are when you actually injure them. You realize how, like, you don't realize how much you use your groin until when it's injured, you realize, oh my goodness, like it's different. It's really different. So, it's just you can't move, man. So like that's why you seen him grimacing. His first jump grimacing. You know what I mean? Just trying to defend Devin Booker. The man snatch you back. Like you're grimacing. Just trying to block, even just jump and lift to block. Grimacing. Like you add in more movement in an NBA game. Like you can't test the groin off of lateral movement in practice. It's not the same when you're playing an actual game, when you have to move even quicker. Like you're kind of, when you're practicing, let me do this, you're kind of not, you're still trying to move game speed, but you're not really moving game speed like NBA game speed, because you're still cognizant of, okay, I injured my groin. You're still like, it's like when someone tells you, okay, your groin is injured. Okay, do this plan. Let's see if your groin is ready. The doctor tells you, go do this, do a feed cut, do this. You're still doing the cut, but you're not doing it like without, you're still thinking in the back of your mind. So you're still like natural human instinct on your cut. The last second you're relieving some of the pressure off of it. You're not doing it the same way as now you're in an NBA game where you're not thinking and you just have to react and whatever. You're not going to think. So those movements can't be replicated, right? It's different. There's still some slight type of caution in your movements when you're doing it in front of the doctor or the medical team or the coaching staff or whoever, right? And then they look at him and be like, okay, he's good to go. But it's not the same when now you have to guard Booker or when you have to now jump for a block or whatever. And that's what you saw in the first however minutes. You saw that with AD, right? So basically, I just feel that, AD should have never played. He should have never stepped foot out there. Obviously, you already know, because at the end of the day, we saw what happened. And it's just, you got to, like I said last video, you got to rest him, just prepare for the offseason. Even if LeBron carries and he carries and you go further, because on LeBron, like on the strength of LeBron carrying and on his back, he puts the team on the back. Then that's what happens, and you go and move forward with that. But at the end of the day, if you now get bounced out, you just have a strong offseason. Every man rest, rehab. LeBron, don't play no Olympics, don't do none of that. Just rest. Get your 3 months. You seen when he rested with the 5 months in the bubble. That's why I always said that rest also too made the bubble be capped, because normally in the playoffs there's no rest like that. You get a week. That's another reason why the bubble was capped. People are forgetting about that. You had 5 months off. So LeBron, who was already, you've seen him starting during the season. If you go back to that bubble, before the bubble, and you see the season, there was moments, especially when he played the Clippers, and certain moments where it's like, okay, LeBron isn't the same athletically. Then you now all of a sudden give him 5 months rest, and then now come back, and then you're only playing a week of games before the playoffs. Like, so it's like you're really resting straight to playoffs, basically, right? It doesn't work like that in a regular season. In a regular season, regular play, your regular season that you play, when you get to game 82, right? You're now, that's why you always see people always say we're banged up in the playoffs, where, no one's really healthy in the playoffs, right? No one's really 100%. Everyone's dealing with something, right? So that's why it's like, when you look at it, and that's what I was saying, the regular season, normally there's certain things that aren't transpiring in the bubble that made it cap, that now made it more easier and made it more enhanced the play that you saw there, in terms of the ability, in terms of people scoring, in terms of people being healthy and dunking, in terms of like there's so many things that enhance those things. So that's why I was always saying the bubble was capped, because even just LeBron himself, he wouldn't get 5 months rest before playoffs ever. He would only get a week, like you saw, and even this time he didn't get a week. He had to play in the playing game. So all of this normally happens, right? So it normally transpires and normally leads up. Like, so, like, that's what I was always saying is cap, right? That's why you've seen, like, what season now you're gonna see LeBron move like how he moved in the bubble athletically in any playoffs. That's not going to happen when you're playing a whole 80 whatever games, 70 something games, then your 1 week rest, then playoffs, and then it only gets more intense and more intense and more intense. He's not going to look like that ever in the playoffs. It's going to be straight ability, and that's what I was trying to highlight, and that's why I was saying the bubble shit was capped. It was capped. Young guys, it's not really capped because they're young guys, but for older guys, like, it was capped because you got 5 months and straight into it. So anyways, you already know, like, at this time now he'll get 3 months off at least, because that's the one thing that did make him obviously deteriorate even faster, was not that much rest after winning a ring and all that type of stuff. So it does play a factor. So I'm not saying LeBron is off the cliff. I'm not saying father time bit him. Father time has been knocking on his shoulder for a minute. If you really pay attention, his athleticism was only used in preferable and in better situations, right? But now that you see it, obviously it's basically that, he could still, all he has to do is refine his ability. If he refines his ability, he could be at a high elite 25 points per game level for even longer, for maybe 3 years at minimum. Like he could do that. He could do that if he just sharpens the skill. But that's the question. Was LeBron always a skill player, or was he always an athletic player who had skill moments when he was feeling nice? And that's where you now see it later in the person's career. You really see who they really are. That's where you really see, like, Melo is still able to be successful and get buckets whenever, because you really see who they really are. He doesn't need athleticism to get a bucket. He was always skilled. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the later down on the career, that's why Kobe, people don't mention enough. Kobe willing his team where he bust his Achilles and on that game where he, got them to the 8th seed in the playoffs. You really see who he really was. He was scoring off strictly ability at that age, at an older age, right? So in year 17. So you understand, like, ability is everything, skill over everything. That's what you need to understand, right? Ability over everything, skill over everything, arsenal over everything. That's what it is. So, we'll see if LeBron could get to that. I hope he does, because, again, LeBron being elite is great for the game. As much as media people cap and media people do what they do, is great for the game at the end of the day. But just adjust your best player shit. Adjust your, some people need to adjust their GOAT shit. Obviously it's like, this might be a GOAT legacy game. People thought of it like that, whatever. Honestly, to me, I already knew where he stood anyways, so it didn't really matter, even if he did good or didn't. But honestly, like, at the end of the day, like, it's just I care about the best player currently. I don't like this cap. I don't like, he's the only player who's been the best player for 2 straight decades, whatever. Like, I don't like this capping. KD's been the best player for a minute. Since, 2014 he's been? You know what I'm saying? Just because you snap in the playoffs and you're great in the playoffs, now that does enhance your best player. But best player number 1, I didn't say he was in top 5. I didn't say he was in top 3. He was. But best player, come on now. Like, at some point you have to readjust what you're doing. And even if you want to say ever since 2018, there's no way he's been, like, come on now. Like, the proof is in the pudding, but it is what it is. I don't want to harp on that. But, I love to see what I saw from the Suns. I love to see that the Suns basically showed everybody what elite looks like. And now the Suns are going to face the Nuggets. I wish that Portland was able to win, but you know what I mean? Obviously, like, it's the Suns versus Nuggets is still going to be a great series anyways, too. So, this is what elite looks like, and, we'll talk about that. We'll do our series prediction, probably down the line, maybe after game 1. We'll see, depending on when it falls. But you already know, man. Stay tuned. You already know I appreciate y'all at the end of the day, and we got another one coming. So let's move on to the next one.